When Celia was born, as with most babies, she came from a warm, safe, protective darkness into the light of the world with eyes blinking in the brightness. Though not yet very adept at focusing, she looked around at unfamiliar things and the strangeness of these things and began to explore and take in her world. At birth, she knew familiar sounds, probably most especially the voice of her mother, other family members, maybe family friends, a dog's bark, perhaps music. Sounds heard in the womb, though not yet connected to anything identifiable, at least not yet. Then all of a sudden, there she was, an infant, a separate being in the world, and Celia has spent the last 17 months gradually and increasingly becoming more aware of, interested in, and connected to her world and everything around her, from her own body to her mom to her family, from food to toys to perhaps pets, maybe, I'm not sure, from her crib to her room to her home to her world. And hopefully, this growing awareness and interest and connection will continue throughout Celia's life. It's a process all of us have gone through on the way to becoming more fully human, a lifelong process, a forever journey, a spiritual path, continuing forever. But now, imagine with me for a moment that you weren't introduced to the world gently and gradually, bit by bit. Imagine, out of complete lack of awareness, complete lack of being, from a state of non-existence, you are thrust abruptly out into the whole world as an adult for the very first time. Not a gradual process, a sudden abrupt process, and there you are, an adult. And here we are, back to the second creation story found in Genesis. According to this story, basically we have dirt and we have water, which flows from the ground periodically. So out of this dirt and water, God makes a kind of clay and molds one earth creature, then blows into this creature the breath of life, a spirit, a soul, and the first living creature appears. Imagine, if you will, being that first earth creature. There you are on the dirt with no awareness of anything. You look around and see dirt, whatever dirt is. You don't really know what dirt is yet. And now and then, something comes up out of this dirt that makes the dirt change into a mushy mess. God goes out and plants a bunch of stuff, and then puts you in the middle of all this green, bushy stuff. Of course, you don't know it's green yet. You haven't named the colors. It just looks different from the stuff beneath your feet that you later may call brown or black or red clay or soil. Then, before you can get used to all of this dirt and become familiar with these small green things at your feet, and later the bushy, taller green things around you, God starts installing these really tall things that are about the color of dirt, but up at the top there's all this green, bushy stuff, reaching toward the blue and white sky you see above. But again, you don't know it's blue and white because you haven't yet named the colors. You're just beginning to distinguish one thing from another, but all this new stuff keeps appearing more and more. You notice some little things way high up on these tall brown things with the green at the top. And you see these little red things and little yellow things and small bluish things. And of course, you still have no names for the colors, but these things are kind of pretty. You're attracted to them. You move in a little closer. You reach out, reach up. You stretch tall, trying to touch. You maybe climb a little to see more, to touch more, to get more, and you put it to your mouth and you bite, and you have a new sensation that later you might call taste. And you swallow and discover you like this. In fact, you like it quite a lot. You can get used to this. Good things to eat, and plentiful at that. A lot of variety, and you are discovering the world, and it is good. You could get really comfortable with this. This, which at first seemed curious and strange. God gets you settled a little bit into the garden. Tells you to take care of things. You're the one in charge to take care of things now. And eat as much as you like, by the way. Just leave this one tree alone. So things start to calm down. You become familiar with this place. You work out a way to take care of things. Your system is working pretty well as you go. But then, God decides you need something more. God doesn't want you to be alone. God is afraid you might get lonely, or maybe God thinks, lest you get too set in your ways, too comfortable, no longer curious and intrigued with the newness around you, something new needs to be added. So God sets out to get you a companion shaped and formed from the very same dirt from which you were formed. And there you are, settled in the garden, relaxed and calm, when all of a sudden you see this curious little thing looking at you. What would you think? God's first attempt at a companion for you, a soulmate to share your life. And you're supposed to name this creature. What would be going through your mind? And then you see this coming at you. God's second attempt at someone to accompany you on the journey of life. Now, if you're wondering about God's creative thoughts and actions, I certainly would understand that sentiment, but right now, God is waiting for you to name it. If you don't feel very comfortable so far, perhaps even a little frightened, maybe God's next creative impulse will be a little more suiting to you, a little more of a companion and maybe soulmate. Name it. Get used to it because it's here for you, a part of your world to help you discover and explore and become more fully human, and it's going to be around for a really long time. Then comes God's next playful act of art. And the next, and the next, and the next. A vast array of God's diverse creatures, all there to help you through life, all there to be cared for by you, all there for connection, for a relationship to help you learn and grow and move through life. With whom would you like to share your love? Which one appeals to you? You've named them all and more. Which one do you think would be your closest companion? Which one would you like to be your soulmate? Maybe you choose one of these for your soulmate and you begin to get comfortable. The creatures become familiar to you. You settle in once again, just like with the plants. And the plants around you and the animals around you help you grow and become whole and human. But then God decides this isn't good enough. There has to be something more for you. And you're becoming, for you as you become a relational being. You're becoming a relational being in relationship to all of the earth, to the plants, to all of these animals that God has put before you. But God has another surprise for you, a new relationship to expand your world, and all when you are just beginning to get comfortable with your life. God causes you to fall into a deep sleep. Earth creature that you are, gender neutral as some think, neither male nor female, and while you sleep, God divides you into two parts, then makes two earth creatures, one from each half. You wake up, and lo and behold, there is yet another of God's new creatures. You and this other earth creature look alike, well, sort of alike, and still sort of different, at least in some ways. You're curious, interested, intrigued by this other earth creature, kind of like you, kind of not. and you look around, and you are surrounded by a huge array of lush plants and trees, by creatures wildly different and yet somewhat alike, and by another earth creature kind of like you in many, many ways, and yet also different, as God is preparing you to continue the creative process and care for all that is. As familiar and as strange as all of this may be to you, as comfortable and as uncomfortable as you may feel, as fascinated and curious as you may be, and as overwhelming as this can seem, God has put you right in the middle of this amazing diversity of the world to learn and to grow and to become more fully human day by day in relationship to God's diverse world. The earth creature grew into fuller humanity through interaction and relationship with all the diversity of the world. Celia has grown and will continue to grow in awareness of and interest in and connection to the diverse world around us. That is what the most wonderful thing that God has to offer Celia. In fact, though, this ongoing journey, this ever-growing awareness, intrigue, and relational connection to the world around us is what God offers to each and every one of us from the beginning of time. Though admittedly, sometimes for some of us, awareness of the world diminishes. Interest in new things just waiting to be discovered fall by the wayside. Our involvement, our connections, our relationships lessen and loosen and even disappear as we become less fully human. And then maybe if you're really lucky, maybe a baby or a toddler moving through the world with toddler intrigue at toddler pace will teach you to see the world again as if for the very first time. As we move through this diverse world, becoming a whole person is a lifelong process, a forever journey, a spiritual path that keeps on moving and moving forward. For us, here at 4th Street, with the new relationships this congregation is forming out in the community around us, the opportunities for each one of us to grow are plentiful and truly amazing. And just maybe, God has something more for us that will stretch us into being more fully human, into being more the whole people of God. So I invite you, as we move into the fall, and start more with these new initiatives. I encourage you, in fact. I even implore you to engage the world, to engage the community around us even more fully, ever more fully, on and on and on into deeper relationship as you become more fully whole. Thanks be to God for all of the diversity of creation. Amen.